Welcome to Global Science, everyone. I'm Bruce Han. Today, we have the great pleasure to speak with Dr. Alex Chun, the president of the Aviation Industries Research Institute of Korea. Dr. Chun is a pioneer in Korea's aerospace and defense product export industry. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today on Global Science.
Bruce, thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. COVID-19 seriously impacted the travel sector, particularly the airline and aerospace industries. What are the impacts, especially here in Korea, and when do you think that these industries will return to normalcy?
Yeah, that's a great question. In ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organizations, just published a report that shows the dramatic decrease in the passenger numbers over the past 2 years. As an example, from 2019 to 2020, we had seen 60% reduction, followed by, in 2021, another 49% reduction. The combined loss from this passenger reduction for the airlines is almost $700 billion. So especially hard-hit area was the international passengers for such regions as Northeast Asia, including Korea. The Korean international passengers going through the Incheon airport, as an example, is still only 22% of what it was 2 years ago. However, the domestic passenger travel has slowly recovered to its full capacity by the middle of this year. It will be. The aerospace industry, on the other hand, is a bit different. It is still feeling the rumbles of the Boeing 737 MAX groundings, the canceled orders by the airlines. They are grounding their own fleet, so there are no new orders, as example. So Korean aerospace industries, as example, they are mostly sub-tiers to the Boeing and Airbus, and they had a serious impact on their revenues for past 2 years, almost to the blinks of a bankruptcy for so many companies here in Korea. But I think the passengers in both domestic and global sense will recover into pre-COVID cases by probably the end of 2023 or early 2024. That's the prediction by most of the organizations. But one interesting note is that with the growing online commerce and learned affinity by consumers on quick delivery by Amazon and Alibaba, the one interesting sector that showed growth over this pandemic period is the air cargo demand. The demand will continue to rise, and that also opens up new businesses, such as the passenger aircraft to cargo aircraft conversion. An exciting time in that sense.
Alex, with the advancement of ICT, autonomous vehicles, and unmanned aerial vehicles, we'll probably witness the birth of commonplace urban air mobility in our generation. What are the key breakthrough requirements to make this happen? And when do you think we'll actually see urban air mobility or air taxis in our everyday life?
Well, the term urban air mobility is often associated with the unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. But both systems require the whole array of complex technological breakthrough to truly be utilized. Because of the fact that it is flying in the air and it can crash if something goes wrong, that poses incredible barriers to full utilization. Those are from simple enough challenges such as air vehicle design, the batteries and engine fidelity, to further complications of air traffic control, situational awareness, massive information and communication requirement, to just name a few. Korean government, like many advanced nations, will be spending huge amount of investment, resources, coupled by private sector investment from such companies as Hyundai Motors, Hanwha Aerospace, and also communication giants such as Korea Telecom and SK Telecom to overcome these challenges. So it'll eventually come as a reality. But when? I'm not so sure. We'll see that likes of Hollywood movies like Fifth Element or The Minority Report, as you saw. In this generation, probably not, but sometime in next generation, not this generation, but this decade, probably not, but next decade, probably.
With the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we're witnessing the first major military conflict in Europe since the breakup of Yugoslavia. Some analysts are saying that this war is different from previous ones and even call it a hybrid war. Why do you think people are calling it that? And how is that relevant to the people involved in the national security and defense sector in a country like Korea?
Well, I think I can answer that with probably three key words. One is the Google Earth, or the Maxa satellite images. The second one is anonymous, or de-anonymous. The third is Swift. We see what's happening in almost real time in CNN or other news reports. With the real images, we are seeing in almost real time the troop movements, the battle damage assessment, and logistic supply lines as example. Today's war, to be made actual combat or command and control or C4IS, these are all done through computers and network systems. Opposing nations use their cyber forces to cripple the others. In this war, we now see massive hackings by private sectors, such as Anonymous, against Russian assets. This has never been seen before. Lastly, SWIFT. In addition to general economic sanctions, international communities are pressuring Russia to stop the hostility by blocking the SWIFT system for Russian financial institutions. This will have a much harsher impact than grain or energy commerce embargoes. We are living in a very different and somewhat exciting, if I may say, a world indeed. All these prompt new thinking and new capabilities requirement for national defense and security, even for countries like Korea.
The merger between Korea Air and Asiana Airlines has been conditionally approved by the Korean government. What is your view on the merger between these two national carriers, and how would that impact consumers in terms of air travel?
I believe the merger is inevitable to be more competitive in the marketplace. As much as the low-cost carriers are competing in low-cost market, the premium national flight carriers are also competing globally. We have even seen cross-border mergers and alliances like Air France and KLM, and British Airways and Iberia. So the merger between two Korean airlines makes economic sense and probably a good thing for both airlines. However, the international passenger market in Korea is obviously different from continental Europe or in the United States, where consumers indeed have much more options there. Thus, the key is how this merger will or will not force consumers to settle with possible monopoly in many routes that currently being operated by Korean Air and Asiana exclusively. The only solution is to let other airlines enter the same route or open more international carriers to enter the same route, possibly further relaxing the open sky policies here in Korea. Therefore, these factors will most likely be conditions for this merger, and it will certainly benefit consumers in the market as a whole.
Now, Alex, finally, can you recommend any interesting stocks to our viewers today? Because my interests are in these areas that I just described. Based upon our conversation, I'd like to pick industries that would benefit the most from new space initiatives, urban air mobility, or the unmanned traffic management systems, and the growing defense requirement. So my pick would be like Korean Aerospace KAI or Hanwha Systems, Korea Telecom, SK Telecom, and such defense commodity suppliers like Tungsan or LIG Next One. Dr. Alex Jun, President of the Aviation Industry Research Institute of Korea, thank you so much for today's very interesting discussion.
Great. Thank you for having me here. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you. Alex made several stock recommendations to our viewers today. He recommends Korea Aerospace Industries, or KAI, Hanwha Systems, Korea Telecom, SK Telecom, Pungsan, and LIG Next One. Thank you so much for being with us today, and until we meet next week, please be safe, healthy, and vigilant.